All right, so today on What's Up Doc, what we're going to do is we're going to show you what I think is actually a revolutionary way to insulate your windows and get the most out of your winter heating. And an interesting part of this is I stumbled onto this a year ago. I had some of this Twin Wall Polycarbonate, and I don't even know where I got it, to be honest. I had some around, and I had a door on my house that went to the outside by where my wood stove is, because we pretty much heat our house with wood. We use about 50 gallons of propane a year, but the rest of it is all wood. And that door was not really a good external door. It's an old house, it's an old door, has a single pane piece of glass in it. And of course, I lose a lot of heat out of that. And when it gets cold outside, like below 10 degrees or whatever, you put your hand on that glass and it was really cold. And I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try putting some of this stuff on my outside of my door. And it was an old door, not in very good shape, so I just screwed it on with the screws that I get that are construction lags with a big head. One of the great things about this plastic is you can run a screw through it and it doesn't crack. But I screwed it on the outside of the door, and I was just totally amazed at how much it changed the way that room felt and the room next to it that the air goes into. So I went and found that I could get some of this at a local home store, home improvement store, and it's called Twin Wall Polycarbonate. It comes in different thicknesses. This is 6 millimeter, so it's not very thick, but it's got an airspace inside, because it's very much like having a whole bunch of rectangular straws stuck to each other side to side. So there's airspace in there. Plus it is a plastic, and so it doesn't conduct cold nearly as well as glass does. So I put it on there, and then I went and got some from the home improvement store, cut it up and stuck it on the inside of my windows, not the outside. Now you could put it on the outside if you wanted to, but I don't recommend that. It's so much easier to put it on the inside. And I cut it on my table saw, which is what we're going to do here in just a moment. And I cut it so it just snugly fit in. It doesn't fit in real tight. And I hold it in place with a tension rod, which is the rods that have a spring in them, like you would use for a curtain. And it worked great. It changed the heat comfort in our house tremendously, because heating with wood, sometimes we get kind of a cold space near the floor and etc. is amazing. So I put it on all my north windows. I put it on the door to the north out to my patio. I put it on a door upstairs. I put it on my 2 skylights upstairs and a couple of the other windows downstairs. We left the windows by the kitchen without it because we have our bird feeders out there. We like to watch the birds. And you can see through this, sort of. It's not like plexiglass, which is pretty much like glass, but in terms of vision, but it's way better than plexiglass in terms of several things. One is it's way less expensive than plexiglass. It doesn't crack. It's way easier to cut, and we're going to show you that right now. The other thing about this is they use it a lot in greenhouses, and if you're going to use it in a greenhouse and it's going to be exposed directly to the sun, there's one side is UV resistant and the other side is not. If you put it with the UV resistant side towards the sun, they guarantee it for 10 years. If you put it the other way around, not so much. And I've even talked to a greenhouse guy that built greenhouses, and he said that he used this stuff. They put some in backwards on a greenhouse, and he said 2 years later you could stick your finger through it. So the UV protection is a big deal. On this one, on each sheet, it's going to come with it's got a thin layer covering it so it doesn't get scratched. On here it tells you this is the side that needs to go towards the sun. So when you cut it, you can mark that, put a word on there or whatever so that you know that that's what goes towards the sun. Now, the great thing about having it inside is, like, if you got a 2-story house, you don't have to use a ladder to get up and put it on the outside. I'm in Nebraska. We get a lot of wind. If you put a piece of plastic film on the outside of your windows, it's not going to last very long here. The wind's just going to tear it apart. The other great thing is, in the spring, when it warms up, all you have to do is take the tension rod down, the piece of polycarbonate comes out, you set it there by the window and open your window, and you don't have to do any taking staples out, taking tape off. You just stick it in there. And I've got one window that's not even real tight at the top, but I still get lots of value out of this stuff. So I've got my table saw set here, my fence is set at 32.5. What we want though is the long piece, because Andy has a window that's over 60 inches, and that's what we're going after. This stuff comes in 4x8 sheets. The price I paid recently was with taxes, because we have sales tax here, $46 for a sheet. Now that may sound like a lot, but I'll tell you what, it'll save you so incredibly much money on your heating, and it's good for a long time. You know, you should be able to get 10 years out of these easy. And that's what's nice, because I don't know if you've ever done the deal where you put the plastic film on the window, but you get 1 year out of that, and then the sun either tears it apart, or the pets do, or the wind does, or taking it out. You want to open that window in the springtime, then you got staples and all that. It's messy. It's really enough of a barrier that you don't do it when you should. Now my house has aluminum storms on it. You know, they're older windows. They're older double hung windows with aluminum storms, but aluminum storms aren't really that great in terms of insulation, because aluminum and glass are such good conductors. So, and Andy's going to take this home, put it in his house. We got some cold weather coming up the next few days. He's going to run some temperature checks on it to see what happens. So we're trying to get this YouTube into production quickly, because it's already November here as I'm talking, and this can make a big difference for you. It's hard for me to really express it strongly enough, and I hope I'm convincing somebody to try it, because it was amazing, and I've been promoting it to lots of people. I don't understand why the place that sells it doesn't promote it every day that way, but they don't. So okay, I'm gotta step off and get some hearing protection, and then I will be back. Okay, so we're set up to cut this twin wall polycarbonate. One of the great things about it also is it just takes a regular circular saw blade. You just want to use one with lots of teeth, like you would use, they call them plywood blades sometimes, but you don't want to use one with just a few teeth and that's real coarse. Otherwise you'll get some tear out. So we're going to cut this first one, then we got to shut down and reset the fence so we can rip and get our window cover. And so we're gonna give that a shot. I gotta put my hearing protection on. Okay, a little bit of a glitch there with the camera fell. So this is actually our extra piece that we're going to cut for another window later on. Andy's got some real tall windows in his house, so we're trying to accommodate one of those first. So now I'm going to cut to, I cut off 32.5. I'm going to cut now to the size of the window he's got, which is 24.5. So I'm going to cut just a little shy of 24.5, so that it'll go into the window. Okay, so now, so I'm going to cut a tall window. This window is actually, we hope we got the right thing. It's supposed to be 63.5. Now, right on the money. And Now we're cutting the biggest window first, which is always the best thing to do, because if you make a mistake, then you can go back and cut it for a smaller window. So this is going to be his biggest window, and that's pretty tall, but he's got some tall windows. So it doesn't really matter which way I cut this. What does matter is we're going to want to mark this, because I believe where these woods are, the words are the side that can go towards the sun. So I'm going to measure that. I'm just going to measure real quick to get sure I get my thing right. It's going to be just a little shy of 24 and a half. That's what this measurement tells me. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it. I'm cutting this on a table saw, but you don't have to do that. There's lots of choices. You could use a circular saw like this if you wanted to. You'd need a blade that has a lot more teeth than this one does. If you use one like this and you want to clamp a board there so you get a nice straight edge. The reason you use a table saw like this is because the fence lets you get a really nice straight edge. So, nice square piece. So this piece should fit his window, 63.5 by 24.5, and he's going to take it home and put it in and see what we end up with. So, and again, he'll write on here so he knows which side needs to go out. We're going to do that on this piece because now it doesn't have any of the film on it anymore. There's just a thin film on here, like food wrap that you peel off. So that's what we're going to do. This is the one we wanted. This is the one we're going to keep. Okay. So that's what's up, Doc, today. I'll see you after a little bit on this same video at the end. And we're going to turn you over to Andy.
Hey guys, Andy here. Thanks for watching. We're over at my house now going to install the polycarbonate that we cut on the table saw. Once you get it cut down to pieces, they recommend that there's a plastic on both sides that they recommend you peel off the first couple of inches of. If you just pick one corner, kind of rub your thumb against it, you'll be able to, it comes right down. So peel around it. That way it's easier to come off when you get it in the window. You don't get your fingers on it. This piece down here has the barcode, so I know that this is the UV treated side and that it actually needs to go in the window that way. So over here is the piece that's actually for this window. It helps if you take a little Sharpie or put a note here, inside, outside, so you know which side needs to go which direction when you put it in. Let's do that now. So I found a Sharpie. Just gonna write up here, out, and then on this side, right behind it, I'm gonna write in. That way, I know next year, I know which way to put it. If you want to get the full 10 years out of this stuff that it claims that it will, it's important that you remember to put the right side out the window. So label this piece now. This is the outside. This is the inside. I measured mine as closely as I could, and then I subtracted 1/4 inch off of the side and off of the top, just of one of each of the dimensions. And it just sticks, it fits right in there at the bottom, and then you can can hear it, the air whistle out past it. It's how you know you have a good, solid seal. The next thing you can do is you can put a tension rod either top or side to side to help push it in there. You're welcome to put in screws or nails even if you wanted to keep it in. Double-sided sticky tape will keep it stuck into your window. There's a lot of different options for keeping it in the window. I personally am just going to stick with the pressure fit in here. I probably could have gotten my tolerances a little bit tighter, but then you're going to have to pry at it with like a screwdriver or something to get it out of the window. The way that it is now, I can just barely stick one of my fingers up in the corner. I can pull the whole thing out by the corner. If I needed to get to the window or to take it out for next year, store it in the garage or in the closet, well, I can put it right back up the next time we get a bad winter storm. Another thing important to remember is to lock the window when you do this. So lock the window, just put it in the bottom there and press it in. The inside pointing in, the outside pointing out. I'm going to wait until the morning now. I'm going to leave this in the window, and then in the morning I'll come out from the other side, and I'm going to take a temperature measurement of the glass on the outside, and then I'll take a measurement of the inside of the room and the polycarbonate itself, and then I'll peel back the poly layer and take the temperature of the window, but the glass behind the poly, but inside the house. And you'll see that each extra layer is what gives you the insulation, and this last layer really just helps so much more than you would expect.
Yeah, I got a couple more things I want to show you on today's What's Up Doc about this polycarbonate. And I actually did this in my own home, so it really does work well. I had a window, and it was just about that much too tall for a 48-inch wide piece, and I'd already cut some off of a sheet, and I didn't want to start with a brand new sheet. So I decided to find a way to use them together to lengthen the existing piece, and I'm going to show you how that's done. It's really simple. So there's two possibilities. One of them is you can overlap the sheets and just screw it together. So here's a construction lag screw. I'll take my gloves off. So a construction lag screw. I use these all the time. Get them at the home improvement stores. They come in little canisters like that. They're not inexpensive. They're actually pretty pricey, but they're worth it. So I've done this before. I've just taken two pieces, and let's say I needed another 2 inches and I just didn't want to cut another sheet. You can just take this stuff and screw it together, just like that. And that is really amazing. I mean, when you think about the versatility of being able to do that, and you could never do that with a piece of glass, of course, but you can do it with polycarbonate. So I effectively lengthened that piece about 1.5 inches. So that's one way to do it. There is another way to do it in case you want something that's a little more secure, or you have, for whatever reason, you might want to do it this other way. I've done both of them. I've got this in one of the windows back by my wood stove, and then I've also done this, where I took a piece of board. This is just a piece of plywood, and instead of overlapping them, I just butted them up against each other, and you try and get it a bit straight. And I only have 2 screws, so I'm only going to show you screwing it on one side, but you'll get the picture. So I've attached it like this before. So on the one side, like on my door out to my patio, I didn't have a piece long enough, and so I made a piece long enough by using a piece of wood. And then of course the other thing you can do with that is on my upstairs I have 2 skylights in our upstairs bedroom, and I put a 2x2 on and screwed it on to be a handle. So this could be a handle to pull that polycarbonate back out of your window at the end of the season. So you can put handles on it if you want. And it wouldn't have to be this long. It could be just a short piece, 2x2, it could be whatever. So this could be used as a handle, but it can also be used as a way to attach two different pieces. So incredibly versatile, and the heat benefit, the heating benefit, or the benefit in terms of the comfort of the home and reducing your carbon footprint and other things, is really incredible. Hope that helps. I'm going to show you one of the other things that's really great about this. Now, when Andy put the polycarbonate in his windows, he just stuck it in there and found a way to hold it in. In my wood shop, I had these doors, and they had corrugated tin on them, and we just weren't getting enough light, so we cut some of the corrugated tin and put up 4x8 sheets of this stuff. And I want to show you what that's all about. This screw, I use these all the time. They're called construction lags. They've got this big head. I love these screws because they don't pull into the wood, and they're easy to get back out. But I can take this and I can squeeze that right down, and this stuff doesn't crack and break. If you did that to a piece of plexiglass, you'd have a crack going clear across here. I guarantee it. And plexiglass is expensive anyway. This stuff is way better than plexiglass for this application. And so that's what we did here. We just screwed this stuff onto this door, and it made a huge difference in terms of insulation, but also in terms of the light in my shop, because I was really restricted by the amount of daylight I was getting. So that's what's up, Doc, today. And this is actually our first one we've made. We want to get it out there right away. Please send it on to other people. We're doing this because other people need to know about this. It'll save you a tremendous amount. It's a good thing to do for sustainability and for other reasons, for your pocketbook. Your comfort level will be greater. So thanks for watching. Send us on. Watch us again on What's Up, Doc. Talk to you again soon.